Oh, here we go.
Back in saddle again.
It's always the most awkward moment of this podcast. Just the very first word.
It's a bit strange.
What do you do? You know, you just hello,
hello,
ahoy, hoy.
Are you there? There you are.
Anyway, here we go.
It is weird doing that. It is. I have moments of like we're not like naturals at this. We haven't been in this for donkey's years, and it takes something. It takes you sort of have to go over a line, don't you, to sort of accept that. And then every now and then, I do think to myself, and it's a worst thing to think is that I sit here and think we're not actually talking to anyone.
No.
You have to make yourself convinced that the two people on that screen. That's why I like that screen turned round. Is almost that's who we're talking to.
Yeah. What we should do. And
do you think if we sit here and think about it, me and you are talking to ourselves right now?
Yeah, because
it's a mind blower.
Because we film it. Podcasts technically don't need any video element at all. You know, you just talk into a
of course,
whatever. But I mean,
I keep forgetting.
No. But now it's like the format has evolved, hasn't it? And you almost sort of expect a podcast to be a video. You know, it's like a video blog kind of thing. Yeah. So we turned the screen around so we could see what's happening on the screen, but. You know, like, you shouldn't look at the screen, should we? We should be looking at the lens.
I know, well, that's another thing.
Because that always makes you look sort of like slightly...
That just comes down to human ego.
So what we need to do, we need to get a picture. I've seen this trick before. You get a picture of someone or whatever and tape it just underneath the lens and you look at that. Like as if you're talking to that person, you know.
Right.
So you need to take a picture of someone we really like or someone we really want to talk to and stick it there.
I'll take a day off to think of it.
Yeah. Get a picture of Bowser.
Get a picture of Bowser on there, yeah. But it is strange, though. It's still weird.
It is weird, yeah. But, you know, here we go. This is our life now.
Yeah.
But there you go. Yeah, so Massive Wagons podcast. If you are watching the video version on YouTube, do us a solid and hit the subscribe and
something about a bell.
Drop a comment and all that kind of stuff, you know, all that YouTube. All the YouTube stuff.
All the lingo.
All that YouTube lingo.
That's it. All the YouTube lingo. If you watch YouTube videos, you'll know it better than us.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. But you almost get sick of it now. Like whenever I watch a video, they're always banging on about it, aren't they? You know, subscribe, subscribe. You know, and it also makes me want to not do that out of spite. You know, I do like this video, but I ain't gonna like it.
Oh, you said you had to say. You didn't get to ruin it for us, everyone.
But anyway, I'm going to say it because we say it once every sort of like 5 or 6 episodes, so I think that's acceptable. You know, just if you watch this regular, just do that because it helps with YouTube algorithms and whatever, and our fragile egos.
I've never subscribed to anything in my life on YouTube. I wouldn't know how to.
Someone must be because like on our YouTube account, you log in and it's like there's a panel on the side for subscriptions, and there's all kinds of random stuff. Now the only thing I can think what's maybe happened is like I've given. Like Phoebe, my daughter, like my phone or whatever to watch something.
She subscribed.
Then she'd be subscribing to all kinds of like Minecraft game players and
yeah. Oh dear.
So yeah, I have to
probably Bowser.
I have to go through.
Know what? Kids stuff, cartoons.
It's probably Bowser, isn't it? Yeah, I'm blaming my 8-year-old daughter. It's actually probably our 34-year-old bass player.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Anyway, what's the point? Anyway. What is the point of this podcast?
Point,
what is it?
I've been asking that question for years. No, I thought today we could talk about songwriting, talk about our songwriting. Not so much maybe the specifics of songwriting, like that age-old question: how do you write your songs, guys?
Yeah. From the Mark 1 book of questions.
I mean, inspiration and over the years, our albums are very, very obviously taken big. Well, a lot of bands do, don't they?
A nosedive.
They take a nosedive. Yeah, they go left and right, and you're listening to different stuff, and you're influenced by different stuff, and you become a different part in your time in your life over the last however many years we've been going, 14 years or whatever it is. Things change a lot, don't they? Your bands leave your life, and albums leave your life, and you stop listening to them all the time, and. It's direction, I suppose.
Yeah,
we're currently writing a new album, aren't we? So I thought it was.
No, it's and it is something that you become. I do anyway, more aware of. After you've written, when you're writing your first sort of bits of music and your first few albums or whatever, it's like you don't really know. You don't have a process. You're sort of finding your process, and you're just doing it, and it's like, oh, there we go. That's how we've done it.
It always blows my mind, and I think it comes down to a lot of the time bands being formed up of other band members from other split up bands. That some bands come out with such great quality material for the first album, and I look at our first album and think, how did they do that? we how did they know to do that? Because we wrote our first album, we were finding our feet. But I think that does come from the fact that we've never been in another band. They've got all that shit out of the way, haven't they? We got all this shit and put it in our first record.
Yeah. I mean, well, like very rarely does a band come. I mean, the only one I can really kind of think of, and I'll probably be crucified for this, but Arctic Monkeys' first album, they were kids. They were like, they were like 17, 18 when they released. Is it Whatever People Say I Am?
That's what I know.
Like and that's a genuinely, again, I'm going to get crucified. It's a genuinely kind of fresh sounding, groundbreaking album.
Oasis as well.
Oasis, well, yeah. I mean,
another
Oasis, but
somebody else to kill us. They could be crucified for saying, but it's a similar thing.
It's true, but I mean, like Oasis. I mean, I don't even think they deny that they lifted quite heavily from. Other songs.
I agree. Yeah, Noel did anyway, didn't he?
Well, whereas a band like the Arctic Monkeys came out with that, and Muse's first album was basically Radiohead, and it's like they sounded like nothing else, and they just came out with it like literally. They didn't know what they were doing. Well, I say no, they obviously did know what they were doing, but it was recorded quickly.
Yeah.
Written fairly quickly, so I believe, and it just went bang, like that,
Amazing.
And lightning in a bottle type thing.
Yeah, and now look at them,
Yeah.
Oh, man, you look good on the dance floor.
Yeah. What are they doing?
Hey,
yeah. I mean, they've, I guess, earned the right to do whatever.
Oh, that scummy man!
It's terrible. Dancing shoes.
Dancing shoes.
I mean, they've always had a little bit of that in them. Is it that much of a surprise? They didn't. I thought they went firmly right up their own backsides long before this latest album.
Some of the interviews online with him are hilarious.
But I guilty pleasure if such a thing exists. I quite like him.
Oh yeah, they are great,
and I like him even more now that they're winding the hardcore fans up. They're doing like lounge versions of their
brilliant
of their classics
in his fucking velvet bloody
and his
blazer,
big Roy Orbison haircut and sunglasses.
Never smiles.
Yeah, Raven's Wing.
Yeah, but I love the drummer. He's never changed, has he?
No, he hasn't. No,
he's just a lad, isn't he?
Yeah,
he came out with the Hives recently. I watched the video yesterday.
Oh, really?
The Hives are the Hives on tour with him?
Yeah, I think they did.
Oh, right. They played a new Hives track, and the drummer came out and played it. For
amazing!
Him.
Right,
yeah. I like him. He's a legend, isn't
he? Yeah,
the drummer.
So anyway, like inspiration
off target.
Yeah, you sort of like in the early stages of writing a new album, like we are now. Where do you what do you look for inspiration? Do you find it anywhere, or do you just wait for it to happen?
It's strange, isn't it? I mean, I'm constantly writing down ideas for songs and phrases a lot of the time, sayings that can be elaborated on, or ideas. A lot of it is absolute shit. Write it down on a list on my phone. And then go back to it. You'll send a riff, and I'll get this list out, and I'll look over it and go, see if anything. At the time, I obviously write these ideas down because they spark something. Mm-hmm. But then it's good to write them down, and go back to them after a few months and see if they still spark anything. Because if I can't make head and tail of what I've written down or why I wrote it down, then it's obviously a shit idea.
Yeah,
or it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, you know what? I have exactly the same sort of process where I'll have an idea for something, and I'll record it quickly on my phone. With an acoustic guitar. Thinking it sounds great, and then I'll go through them after a few weeks later, and I'll be like, "Well, that was crap." What was I thinking? And it's like an obvious sign that it ain't that good then.
Ain't that good, yeah. But if it reignites something again, you think, "Oh,
well, generally the ones that very rarely do I go through my phone and go, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that one," because the ones that I really like kind of stay up here, and I'm kind of chewing them over in my head.
Yeah, they do, don't they? Yeah, and a good idea.
Yeah. So I have a similar process, but it's like whittling it down to something that you think might be worthy.
Yeah, but I mean, do you openly embrace and accept that what you are listening to at the time influences what you are writing? Subconscious? Is it subconscious, or do you think? Are you happy to say, yeah, I really think it does, or do you say, no, it doesn't? No, it doesn't at all.
No, definitely. I think the trick now, though, that they're becoming more aware of is not it's finding the balance between taking the influence. When I say influence, I'm talking about like, you know, I hear a riff or a chord progression or something. I go, I'm going to have a bit of that, you know. Trying to, you know, you take it. I don't care what anyone says. Any songwriter will, you know, take stuff from other bits of music, things they like, and they'll.
Well, there's only so many.
Well, exactly.
So many notes in there. You'll put me in so many fucking orders, can't you?
So it's taking that idea and kind of trying to sort of reimagine it in your head to what it's going to sound like when we play it, rather than just sort of lifting it from there and going, well, why don't you see what you can write to that, you know, because doing that you can end up being a bit disjointed. So.
Any self-respecting musician, I think, doesn't want to do that anyway, do they? They don't want to take somebody else's music and just use it, do they? Absolutely want to remodel it and see what you can do with it.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's a strange one. I mean, I when I'm ever short of an idea, which, you know, thankfully I'm not often like completely out of ideas, and that's generally because there's a surplus of unused stuff from the past, you know. But if I'm ever like completely sort of stumped, I will just listen to the radio, any radio. Well, not rock, you know. I won't listen to rock. I'll listen to, I don't know, country or Radio 2 or even sometimes Radio 1, you know. Radio 1, like you listen to the songs now.
Who are you?
Well, I want a pattern, and it's nothing new, but more and more I kind of see it lately, where they'll take a chord progression, and it'll be 4 chords, and it'll be nice, kind of fairly generic chords, but then they're produced in a way that they build up. You know, they don't change. The verse chords are the same as the chorus chords. The only thing that's changed is like the beat or the melody is constantly changing through Radio 1, you know, pop music now, modern pop. They don't let you get bored for a second. You know, every line is delivered differently, and there's something being introduced constantly. So, you know, whereas I kind of used to think that, oh, maybe it's a bit cack and a bit sort of boring. If you really listen, it's really well produced stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes humbling, like sometimes going like, you don't need, if you're writing what we do, you know, commercially kind of rock, whatever,
face melting,
whatever we do,
trouser throbbing, fucking rock.
Then don't overthink it. Sometimes it's good to have a bit of a you know, there's moments for that, but then I don't know. I'm still finding the balance between what I, you know, being self-indulgent and being remembering the song and serving that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It is. It's strange when when you were on, like, what were you on, album 7, and then you just look back at like where you were at that time, like the first album. Our first album is like, it's just a pole apart from anything we do now, and things have changed so much direction. I'm glad they have, like, you know.
There's people out there. Some people aren't.
Well, whatever.
I think that's good,
so
though.
it is, isn't it?
That's good. I mean, any band in the world, I think, is going to have the people that like that raw. You know, there's people out there.
Rubbish.
Raw rubbish. I always think of Black Sabbath for some reason, because I know, like, their first album, you know, albums in rock anyway, don't really get more iconic than that one.
Did they say, I watched, I think it's on the, is it on that Aussie documentary? He said they wrote it in a matter of days or a week, or they recorded it in 2 days or something. Yeah. And they didn't, and then the next thing he heard, it was like number 5 in the charts or something.
Yeah,
he was like,
2 days,
what on earth? What's this? Imagine that, eh?
Yeah,
he said he thought it sounded crap or something, you know, it was just like thrown together.
Yeah, well, they'd never heard like the bells on the beginning of Black Sabbath or anything like that. You know, they just recorded it, and then I can't believe I forgot the producer's name. But
and they weren't going to put Paranoid on it either, were they? I don't think.
I think that's the second album.
Is that the second album?
Yeah, Paranoid.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, the second album, right. But
this one with the War Pigs.
They weren't going to use that as a single, though, were they?
No. Well, I think they needed, like, they had 3 minutes of tape or whatever left, and they were just like, well, let's chuck this one on,
right?
And it ended up being. Massive. Then suddenly the album's called Paranoid. Suddenly, like, you know, everything's paranoid. But you know, like, they're a band that they'd had a. Bless you.
Sorry.
They had like 3 or 4 years of like touring, gigging experience, you know, in absolute dives
Yeah.
around the UK and Germany, I think. And then they'd always had this plan, you know. I think Tony Iommi had always had this plan to make a evil kind of sounding and, you know, make it all satanic and all that kind of stuff. So there's not much accidental about it, even though it was done quickly. They were still well thought out. And
it's interesting to hear. It's interesting to always hear them guys as well, hearing their influences like Iommi or Ozzy or Paul McCartney, and it all comes from like big band stuff. Like before, my dad's 67, and he said when he was a kid, so he was born in 56. He said when he was a kid, it was just like big band music, and then all of a sudden, rock and roll music was there. You know, it was like, so it's it'd be great, wouldn't you? Never would you? But to know where all that came from, like the rock and roll stuff, I suppose it comes from blues, doesn't it? Blues players and.
Well, I mean, I've always kind of looked at it like,
and it wasn't really going to last long, was it? Rock and roll, it was sort of
a bit of a flash in the pan.
Flash in the pan. It's going to be around for a couple of years, and then it's going to be gone, isn't it?
But it started off. I'm not an expert, but in my kind of understanding is it started off in, you know, like the Deep South with Robert Johnson and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the war happened, and then after the war, you get like, you know, Elvis and Eddie Cochran taking, you know, that kind of music and, you know, putting the kind of white man kind of spin on it, or, you know, commercializing it and everything.
Yeah.
And then Chuck Berry and Little Richard and all that kind of roll it round, and then they rule the roost for the 50s, and then the Beatles happen, and they're like, you know, they were obsessed with Chuck Berry and all this kind of stuff, and then they put their spin on it, and then it's back to Hendrix, and then, you know, it just constantly sort of like, it's almost like passing a relay, you know.
Such big changes as well over such a short space of time.
Oh, it's mental, yeah.
You know, how much it changed from blues and gospel and big band music, Count Basie and all that kind of crap, to Jimi Hendrix and then on to Black Sabbath, and it's like, wow, over the course of 20 years.
Yeah. And then 10 years later, you've got bloody Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee gyrating all over the all over your TV screen.
Yeah, but it is hard to know where it goes, really, isn't it, music? We're still essentially it's sort of stagnated, maybe. There's not really much.
Well,
I don't know. It's hard to know where it can go, isn't it, in terms of the instrument and.
Well, yeah. I mean, where do you go? Where do you go?
Tough one, isn't it?
But like, there's something that I think we do, and we've always kind of been over the course of our albums. We've always reacted quite honestly to our influences. Do you know what I mean? Like, so our very first album, it's Blackstone Cherry kind of, you know. Blackstone Cherry Airborne kind of, you know, I don't know, but it's kind of obvious we're listening to that.
The down tune, there's a lot of down tune stuff on there, which we're
exactly.
Obviously listening to Blackstone Cherry, and then there's a few upbeat numbers on there, which was high energy Airborne kind of stuff, innit?
And I think that carried on into the next album a bit more. I think we dropped the Blackstone Cherry type stuff, and it sort of became a little bit more, almost like Guns N' Roses-y kind of.
A bit more
like that.
Classic rock.
Yeah, classic rock, bar rock, whatever. And then it gets a little bit more melodic as we go on, to the point where I think Full Nelson is like the point where it was sort of very kind of the most commercially kind of sounding songs and production. And then it got a little bit dirty and garagey again, punky, you know, so we kind of gone through all this weird sort of meander, and commercially it's probably not a good idea to do that, because you know, you should, if all you're really focused on is like success and
That's
chasing
not the best
it.
plan, is it?
Exactly. Yeah, you need to be direct and be marketable and stay consistent with everything.
But on the other hand, that takes a lot of the fun out of it.
Exactly.
For the fucking people in the band, and we have maybe tried to do both, haven't we? We've tried to chase success, but also stay true to what we wanted to do and write songs we wanted to do, and you know, not be the business model that maybe you're supposed to be, because that's just fucking dull.
Yeah, no, I don't regret any of it, but I do think now though, having, you know, 6 albums behind us, it's now a case of taking this and the lessons we've learned, and sort of making all of this wrapped into one kind of coherent sort of meal of rock or whatever, you know, that does have it. It's a little bit punky, it's a little bit metally, it's a little bit classic rock, country, whatever. But it just sounds like us. Just sounds like Massive Wagons. You know, it's not. You don't. The people won't ask that question. It just sounds like us. You know?
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? Is for people to listen to a song no matter what it is and go, oh yeah, that's them, innit?
Yeah,
that's them.
And a band that I think, and you can see when they hit that absolute pinnacle, is Volbeat, when they did that Outlaw Gentlemen and Shady Ladies album with Lola Montez and Hangman's Body Count and all that kind of stuff. You know, before that, they're like, what's this, some sort of like Elvis metal?
It's
punk,
like
Green Day. What is this?
You listen to Sad Man's Tongue, and then you listen to something else, and then Lola Montez. It's like, what is this band?
Yeah, and it's obviously like they've got Johnny Cash influences in there as well, but it's metal.
Metallica.
Metallica, Green Day. You know, and that album, it just all came together, and it was like, it's just Volbeat. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is the Volbeat sound.
This Volbeat's sold.
Scooby-Doo on steroids.
Yeah. Sounds like an auctioneer, doesn't he? Or somebody commentating on the Grand National.
Yeah,
but that is it. Yeah, it does. They are amazing. I look up to them a lot, like their career.
Yeah,
because they were. What inspires me is reading about bands that have been around a long time.
Yeah.
I remember reading a thing in Classic Rock about them, and they said, "Oh, we've been slogging it out for 10, 15 years," and you know.
Yeah, well, they were in
bands
in the 90s, like they were like really.
And then it just happened.
Yeah.
So I think there's still hope for us yet.
Well, yeah.
You know, that's what I'm clinging to anyway.
Well, you know, you do work. I take comfort. I take comfort. I like knowing that we're in control.
Yeah.
Of that.
Yeah, I agree.
The music, the songs we write, that no one else is ever going to be taking. No one's ever going to take that away from us, man. But we basically
you can't take our songs, man.
you can take our money.
You can't take our songs, man.
But it's kind of true, you know. I like that fact, and I know that I'm so excited. I've honestly never been more excited for an album. And I'll be honest, and I'll say the last, maybe not the last one, but certainly Full Nelson and House of Noise, I struggled to be sort of crazy enthusiastic about it. Do you know what I mean? Like I thought it was great. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, but that's more personal, like where I am personally, rather than the songs.
Do you think it's crossed my mind? I listen back to them, and it's like I love a lot of the songs on both of them albums. But especially Full Nelson, I think maybe we were trying too hard.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean?
I think
as daft as that might sound.
I think that was the point where we were just throwing this in and that in, and having no real kind of thought for the final product.
It's a bit, especially with Full Nelson, we were maybe a bit too arrogant. Not arrogant people, but arrogant in terms of what needed to be done. Like it was a little bit like, well, we do what we want, and we're gonna put these songs on, and we'll work. You know, we don't
exactly. Yeah,
and it is maybe a bit too abstract, really, isn't it? And,
a little bit, but then again, people. I mean, as far as I'm aware, I think a lot of people really like that album.
Well, that's nice to know. But then definitely Triggered, we've definitely reined that in, definitely. Yeah. And I think this next one is going to be.
Yeah,
even more sort of thought. It's just having a thought. It's just thinking about it. We never really thought about the process before. We just wrote songs and like, what do we want to write? Like, let's make it work. Now we're almost thinking the other way around. It's like, how can we make this album be the best it can be?
Yeah.
Really? Rather than just writing all the songs and trying to get all these jigsaw pieces in a fucking puzzle, however we want them, not where they're supposed to go.
Well, if the jigsaw analogy, it's like you've got all the pieces, but you don't know what the picture's supposed to look like. Yeah. Now we've kind of got a picture. And then
picture of Bowser's ass.
A picture of Bowser's ass, and we're putting there's the Nipsey. You know. Sorry. But yeah, it's kind of like that. You know, I kind of feel like this album we've taken a little bit of time. Don't get me wrong, we're not sat around and had a board meeting around it or anything, but we kind of know what we want it to be, and honestly, a little bit of it has been inspired by going back and. We've done a little bit of work on a previous album, one of the earlier ones, for a reissue, and that's been a really great exercise, I think, in going back and really, because you're being forced to. I don't go back and listen to our own music, but it's sort of being forced to listen to the album and these songs like a lot.
Yeah,
it's kind of made me go, oh, it's like remember what we used to sort of do a little bit back then, and trying to take that into this album as well.
Yeah, I agree. I like the direction of the new album. I think we've got a couple of songs written. and I think it's I think it started really well. I really like the direction it's going, and so far anyway.
Yeah.
So far.
What's inspiring you at the moment then? Like, what are you listening to?
Well, all I listen to is Anti-Nowhere League every day.
Anti-Nowhere League.
Every day, yeah. I can't stop listening to them. I think they're amazing. They've got like they're a punk. Well, they're a sort of self-professed punk rock and roll band. I don't know. I mean, they're loved by punks, so they're loved by rock people, you know. But I don't think they don't strike me as like a hardcore punk band.
No, they're not. No.
They're like old school leather jackets, bikers, quiff. You know, Animal, the singer's got a big fucking quiff, or big hair anyway. But I think they're right. They take the best of punk and they take the best of rock, and they like have punk verses, like, and his lyrics are scathing, funny, real, so good, and these like hard edged verses, and then the choruses are just like take off. Do you know what I mean? A bit much like the Wild Arts.
Yeah.
You know, same sort of thing. You know, Ginger writes honest, on from the heart, scathing lyrics, you know, when they need to be, and you listen to them and they're interested, and then these heavy riffs, great heavy riffs, and then the chorus will just be a lift off, won't it? And it's like, big melodic, you know. You maybe don't get that so much in some punk bands, I don't know, but yeah, a lot them, and who else have we listened to? Exploited as well. They're a bit more serious.
They're a Scottish band.
They're a bit more serious punk, aren't they?
They're a little bit more
angry,
thrashy, aren't they?
Yeah, I like them. And The Damned as well.
Oh, cool.
To be honest, yeah, I like The Damned. Bowser's dad is a massive Damned fan, and he's always on about him. So I think they're brilliant as well. They remind me for some reason of Cheap Trick a bit. I don't know why. They're a bit sort of got a bit of a comedy edge, if you like, a bit cartoony.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Cheap Trick are definitely. We've got a punker kind of thing going on as well.
I think they cross over a bit, them two bands, a little bit. They've both been around a long time, haven't they?
Yeah, well, it's well, I can definitely tell that there's a punker kind of
I like Anthrax or another. I don't know they're thrash band, aren't they really? But you can hear the punk in their stuff as well, their attitude and their performance, and
I like Anthrax.
Got Ian especially, you know, it's that.
Of the big four, Anthrax are about the only other band other than Metallica that I can really kind of stomach. To be honest, never really done it for me. No, if I'm honest, Megadeth and Slayer.
I don't mind Dave Mustaine. I like reading it. I think he's controversial and it makes me laugh. And I think he does a lot of it. It's tongue in cheek. You know?
Of course,
he takes the piss. He winds the music media right up, doesn't he? And I like that.
Yeah, I'm talking about music here. About the people.
Yeah.
I'd never tell Kerry King he was anything other than a lovely man, to be honest. Nice chaps, Kerry.
Yeah. Okay,
they go so well with your shaved head.
Yeah, Slayer, they're the other big one, aren't they? The other big four, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you know what I like? One of my most favourite bits of writing is like the few weeks before we go into the studio. And knowing that you've only got like this small window of time to write something else, because almost certainly the last two albums, an absolute banger has emerged out of that.
Yeah. House of Noise was.
Yeah, House of Noise, Place Stay Calm was another one. So you know, I kind of like look forward to that bit when there's the pressure. With House of Noise, anyway, I guess the pressure there was a little bit more pressure then because. I think we had like 12 songs, and you really sort of want 13, 14, really. I don't know why. You probably don't. Just in our heads we did, and I heard this thing on the radio. I can't remember what it was. A dance thing on Radio 1, and that gave me the idea for the riff for House of Noise, and I just sort of did it quickly, sent it to you, and it just came together. So I think
I wrote like one verse at Christmas time, and then that was all we took in.
Yeah.
And then just hammered the rest out. And it is hard, but it's exciting, isn't it? Everyone's like, you know, buzz up for it and well buzzing.
Yeah, and that song in particular, I think it's got a real energy to it that is kind of on the edge.
I love it being in the set. It's one of our most played on Spotify as well, isn't it? Which is...
Yeah, it got on a lot of playlists, and it was recently covered by Nomi.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
A Swedish chap.
Oh, yeah, what a guy he is.
Yeah.
And it's great. He's made it sound more rock, which is very, very interesting, isn't it? He's made it sound more sort of class, more like Americanized kind of rock.
Yeah.
He's got a great voice.
The thing is, I think his thing though is taking like more sort of poppy dance songs and then making them rock. So I don't know what that says about us, really.
Well, I don't know. I'd love to hear some. We've all mentioned it a lot. We'd love to hear somebody take that song and remix it into a dance track.
Yeah,
You know, maybe or something. I don't know. I think that'd be interesting.
yeah. No, I'd love to hear that. Yeah,
Any
cool.
budding DJs,
DJs,
whatever you call yourself. I don't know.
Anybody you got any
Remixers.
decks?
You've got any of them? Them 1210s.
Any hip hoppers?
Any hip? Any party poppers out there? We'll shut the fuck up right now.
Yeah, we're not down with the lingo. No. Right. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. So yeah, we'll get on with the writing. Back to writing.
Whoosh.
See you later.
See you soon.